I still don't understand it. I have no concern to look into why. Maybe when we start making any money, we will have to go through this process. But I'm going to say now, I will try not to fuck either of you over.
That's why
I will fuck you up.
That's why I already own the trademark, so you guys can't do that.
So as Alex said, this is the beginning of Alex's downfall, of Eduardo's downfall.
I knew it. It's time to get Zuckerberged, learn about Napster, and find out which one of us is most likely to get into the Phoenix Club, along with trying not to laugh at the name Winklevoss, which is very funny. It has the name Winkle in it. The little Winkle. Welcome to the second installment of the Making It Big series of the 3 Takes of Stupidity. We're continuing this series with The Social Network. I'm joined by Chandler Monk.
Hello.
James Robbins.
Hi.
We're about to poke each other.
It's good.
And when you could poke people on Facebook, I don't know if you still can.
I forgot you can poke people on Facebook. Can you still do that?
No one's poking anyone.
So welcome back, everyone. It is the second episode, and now what we're calling trilogies to, one that keeps on the 3 and it keeps on the film theme. So we think that works. Tell us if we're stupid. The Social Network. Get to talk about some terrible people, which I'm really looking forward to. But before that, I want to hear from these terrible people. What have you been up to?
I'll go first, because I've really started something that I should have started a long time ago. I've started watching The Sopranos. So I'm about 4 episodes in, I think, at this point, from series 1. So if occasionally I start making, like, mafia-isms where I just go, hey, or gabagool, that's why. I have been known to just have outbursts of gabagool.
Have I had deja vu, or I swear you've done this exact opening before?
I've never watched The Sopranos before, because I was watching it and there's a lot of similarities to Breaking Bad, and was like, oh my god, Breaking Bad. Oh no, Better Call Saul, I think it is. But I was like, there's a lot of very, very similar shots, and I was like, this is stolen.
It's a show I've been meaning to watch for years, and I swear you've done this before, which is messing with my head, but I guess not.
I've never watched The Sopranos before.
Gabagool, I want to watch it.
Gabagool, have I mentioned Gabagool before?
Definitely, we've definitely mentioned Gabagool before.
I don't think we have. I honestly
I don't think we have. No. Not even in our unaired episodes did we ever mention it.
Why would we have mentioned? I don't even know what it is. As in my head, it's like some sort of like pickle coleslaw kind of thing.
Diehard audience, please go back and listen to all our episodes again. Not for any reason other than to just find out, to see if Alex has watched The Sopranos before and he's forgotten. Not to give us more views in the hope that we can get some ad revenue. No, just gabagool.
If I have said I've watched The Sopranos before, I'm a liar and
and a fool.
A fool.
Sopranos is very good. I think I still have like a season and a bit to watch. I think I got to like season 5 or something and then stopped for some reason. But there are some very, very good episodes in there.
This is the annoying thing about The Sopranos, though. It's one of very few shows I've actually seen the ending of. Like I've watched the ending of Friends once, so we'll never watch it again. I've watched the last scene of Seinfeld once, so we'll never watch it again. I hate final episodes of things. I hate it. Scrubs is the only one I will rewatch because it's not even really the end.
Do you just hate endings? Do you need to tell us about some like psychological issues you may have? You can let it out because it feels unhealthy to not like the endings.
Especially with something like Friends that's 10 seasons long. If I binge it, I've then lost 6 friends from my life.
You've already lost one. We've already lost one.
No.
R.I.P. Matthew Perry.
Oh,
my namesake. The person I was genuinely named after.
Chandler, yourself.
Honestly, the only thing I've actually had time to watch is I decided to catch up on South Park. So I started watching South Park from that. They did like 2 specials during like the COVID lockdowns, like a lockdown special and a vaccination special. And yeah, I've started catching up on like the last 2 seasons of South Park, and it's just incredible as always. South Park's brilliant. But other than that, I've not really watched much. My sister keeps banging on to me that me and my partner should start watching Dexter from the beginning.
You've never seen Dexter?
I remember watching the first season of it years ago, and I remember finding it very slow, so I didn't carry on for the second season.
Yeah.
But my partner and I need like a drama to get into, so it might be Dexter. We're not sure yet. And that's my week, really. Nothing too much this time around, unfortunately. James?
Got a lot on the list, but nothing I've really picked up. I want to watch the series 3 of What If. You mentioned series 1 the other day. That's been out, and now there is the Spider-Man animated series that Marvel have done on Disney Plus.
Yes.
I can't decide whether I think it looks good or not. I'm going to be honest. I think it looks really, the style looks really cheap to me.
Isn't that the like continuation of the old like 90s Spider-Man
The
Spider-Man
style
show?
looks that way, but it's not. No, it's not a continuation. No, this is a brand new. So originally it was going to be Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but like his school years before Tony Stark came along, when he was in like the homemade suit and stuff, before he got any tech, and he was still like 14 or whatever. But then that got scrapped, and it just became like another very similar Spider-Man.
It's not like the X-Men 97 series that Disney
which
did. Okay.
is a shame, because I'd love a continuation of the old 90s Spider-Man. I loved that show.
If I remember correctly, it ended on a cliffhanger. It ended when he meets Madam Web.
I swear there was a Madam Web series bit of it, because they did a mini Spider-Verse bit, I think, in the old animated show.
Yeah, like literally the last episode was, and it was like, we're going to show you the multiverse, and I'm like, sure, it ended on a cliffhanger.
With the way that how the X-Men one went, which was really, really freaking good. Like, it was excellent.
I should.
You have to watch it. You'll love it. If you like the Art Nighting show, you'll really, really like it. It is really
5 seconds.
such a good tune. But otherwise, I haven't really been watching much. Just those two are on my list. I've been back on the Echo of Glory a few times to talk Tottenham, which has been a troubling experience considering our form, but we had a win, so that was nice.
Did you promote our podcast this time round, or just the only first time?
Our podcast has been promoted once on there.
Okay.
I'm looking for the opportunity to promote again, as we've discussed this so many times.
You cannot promote the Echo of Glory again on this podcast until you do it again on that podcast.
I'm not promoting it because I'm not telling anyone to go listen, because, I don't think there's any Spurs fans that listen.
If you're an Arsenal fan, though, please, Echo of Glory is available wherever you get your podcasts, and honestly, it's a laugh riot.
Should we
talk about films?
Yeah.
I've got a good line. Should we go to college and try and make some friends?
Let's do it.
I think that was as good as you think it was.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I don't think that. I was shit. I was really expecting I don't know. I was expecting better.
So it's way better.
Can I add you as a friend and let's go on Facebook?
No.
No, it's just not working.
Could someone think of a link then? One of you say a link.
I kind of love that how shit this has gone for you should be the link.
Shut up.
The Social Network. Bit of housekeeping before we begin. This film is available to watch on Prime, and it's a film essentially about the making of Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg's wonderful trail from young incel weirdo to middle-aged incel weirdo.
Our reels are so not getting anywhere on Facebook or Instagram now.
He's a lovely fella. It won 3 Oscars, 6 BAFTAs, and 6 Golden Globes. And it all made us hate Justin Timberlake.
It's going to ruin the tour. You guys not get that reference?
Justin Timberlake's a lovely fella.
When he got arrested for cocaine.
Got arrested for cocaine! Right then. Some important numbers. IMDb gives it a rating of 7.8 out of 10. Don't know why. Especially because Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gives it a 96%, which is outstanding. This might be the highest rated film we've ever done. And the popcorn rating is 87. I feel like that might have taken a downturn with the recent things that have been happening to Facebook, and people have been judging it. But, yeah, I think this might be the highest rated film we've ever done.
It is clearly a good movie. I'm going to be very mean to Mr. Zuck, because Mr. Zuck do be sucking. But yeah, no, this film was really, really, really good. And I really enjoy how they structured it around deposition, because these films can often be quite, you're going to question the authenticity of what is actually happening. But by framing it around a deposition where they genuinely might have access to those documents and stuff in the deposition may be exaggerated or what, and people trying to blame each other and ultimately they're going to come out negatively, it kind of gives them the opportunity to exaggerate and dramatize, I think. And so, yeah, I really like the, as soon as it gets into the deposition and sends you to another scene and then sends you to the next scene. And even though it's overall linear, yeah, I enjoyed that.
So, yeah, I really love this film. I remember going to see it in the cinema with one of my best mates, and we loved it straight away. Like you mentioned there, James, the framing of the film is done really, really well, where it's like the first scene is done completely as it is, and then you realise, oh, this is actually a flashback, and it's people telling this, and it's someone telling the story, essentially. Like, there are things that are made up within this film. Like, there are dramatizations, and, as with any biopic, things are slightly embellished or characters added, or characters are amalgamations of other people, things like that. So this film is actually based on a book called The Accidental Billionaires, which the writer, Ben Menzrich, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, he was actually interviewing Eduardo Saverin, one of the character who's played by Andrew Garfield within the film, while he was going through the deposition process. But unfortunately, I think if I remember rightly, Eduardo Saverin had to stop talking to him because he had settled by this point, basically. So there are a few bits that are filled in through the gaps and stuff like that. But yeah, the film's amazing. The film was really, really good. If you want another film that's based on a book that is written by Ben Menzrich, is 21, which is about the Stanford, I can't remember which university, but it's basically about university students in America going to Vegas and counting cards at blackjack. That's a really good film as well. It does have Kevin Spacey in it, so that does bring it down slightly because of how bad.
He's the executive producer of this film.
Yes, because it's produced by the same company, because he bought rights to both books. But anyway, so yes.
Oh, his scandal hurt. I really liked House of Cards, and then what a dick. You're always really good with similar recommendations, Chandler. This is why you are the knowledge on Discord.
Thank you.
I think with the historical inaccuracies, this is the first time we're doing a non-fiction film. So,
are you telling me Mulholland Drive wasn't real?
It was. There was some embellishments.
Don't know if there was. If you read the Weinstein stuff, there's no embellishments in that.
This one we can't really stray too far from. There are lots of quotes from people in the film where they say it wasn't exactly like that, but they also don't say it wasn't too far from what's actually shown in the film.
Yeah. I think it's important to note while we're early on in the episode that we will touch on Zuckerberg being stinky, but it's not going to be our main focus. We're not here to do political discourse. We're here to look at The Social Network as a movie. And to be honest, the film allows you to see him as a dick anyway, so we can moan about him. Well, I will be. Don't know about the other boys.
I was going to say, the man who is more than likely going to make this political just said that we won't make this political.
I'm not going to make it political. I'm too tired for that. I've been up since 7 a.m. and it is now 11:22.
We should really stop telling people at what time we record this podcast.
Yeah, I did think that in the last one.
I enjoyed that.
I think for this one, we'll go for our characters breakdown setup. I think we'll look at Zuckerberg firstly, because he is the main character of this film. The whole film revolves around his depositions with the Winklevi, and
I love it when they say. I love it when he says the Winklevi. Love it.
Everyone says it with a straight face.
Yeah.
His deposition with the Winklevi, did it again, and the deposition with Eduardo Saverin. Did everyone enjoy Mark Zuckerberg's portrayal? I have got a note from the man himself when he went to watch the film. I will say firstly, he didn't want to watch the film when it came out. He did make a point of saying that he did want to go watch it, but then did go watch it with some people from Facebook, and his only comment on the film is they got his dress sense correct.
Yeah. So they took all the things he wears in the film, like from actual photos that they had of him. But it's really interesting because something else that he says about the film, and it's also something Aaron Sorkin, who wrote this film, wrote the screenplay for the film, said, is that they actually wish that a film hadn't been made until while he was still alive, essentially. So Aaron Sorkin says it in the way of and James, I think, and I'll touch upon the politics of it now, but I think in the stature of this film, from Facebook being founded to the, you know, a few years later when he gets sued by the Saverin and the Winklevi, to where Zuckerberg is now, publicly facing, are two very different personalities. So yeah, that's why Aaron Sorkin sort of says like, oh, I wish I actually wrote the film now or years down the line. So it's like you can actually get the full scope of what Facebook has become. And I think obviously I'll get onto this later, but like, it's actually really interesting to come back and watch this film 15 years after it came out. Because one thing I noted down was like, look how different Facebook looks. Like, look how Facebook started. Like, the UI of it is completely different. The whole original idea of it is very different to what it is now. The film is quite a good time capsule for what social networks and Facebook was right at the start. It's quite enjoyable to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I found it quite familiar. I mean, I know it was still not quite what we knew, but when I first got Facebook, probably when I was like, I don't know, 13?
Like,
maybe?
I think, 13, 14, like 2008, 2009 for like us.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
guessing.
Yeah, because I was like coming off of Pixel and Bebo and then onto Facebook. Didn't have a MySpace. But it truly was then just to post messages, pictures, and talk to your friends. And then maybe you'd have some extended friends and friends of friends on there. And being a kid and not wanting your family to be your friend on it. And that's simply all it was. Send a poke. That's all it was. And it was, if anything...
I literally just tried to look on how to poke someone still, and I couldn't find it on the app.
Can you not poke anyone? I'm going to try... I really want to try and poke you two.
You apparently still can. I just tried to poke James. I couldn't.
This film doesn't paint Facebook as being wholesome in creation at all. However, my memory of it when I was young was just, it was perfectly fine, perfectly wholesome, definitely not the mess of misinformation that it's now become. But it's interesting you say about Zuckerberg and where he is now, and it's a different person. But during this film, I just thought he was horrible. The film opens up with him being basically broken up with by his current girlfriend, who he is just continually being mean to. My first note was that he's really smart, but seems really fragile and really annoying and really like vengeful at any comment she makes. He wants to get into clubs. He thinks she's not intelligent enough for him, basically, and she should be more supportive of him because he'll help her meet important people. And then he claims just because she's friends with another guy that she slept with the doorman. She don't know the doorman has a name. This is my friend. And then she breaks up with him, and that essentially leads him to never let go of that breakup.
Yeah, there are a few traits that come across that, it's personality traits, you could call them. Jesse Eisenberg did a really good interview where he said he struggles a lot with his OCD, but for this film, the note from the director was to just let it out, be weird with it. Like it was a David Lynch style, be weird with it.
I found him an incelious narcissist who is actually really fragile, to be honest.
It's really the whole first scene and the scene with
Erica,
it's Rooney Mara. This whole scene and then the other scene later on in the film with Rooney Mara, I think they're both really good. And one thing that's obviously down to Aaron Sorkin's perfect writing of this screenplay is the foreshadowing in it, because everything that they mention in this scene is like really foreshadowing, like people rowing crew. So it's like, okay, the Winklevosses row crew, the finals clubs. Eduardo Saverin gets into a finals club.
Final club. As mentioned in the film.
Victoria's Secret as well. Like when he's typing on the thing, when he's typing in his blog about her having help from Victoria's Secret. Obviously, there's the Victoria's Secret later on in the story.
Yep.
And I think Aaron Sorkin Erica plays the role of Aaron Sorkin talking to everyone else watching the film when she appears at the second time when Mark sees her having dinner with her friends, and she goes, every thought in your head is so good it needs to be published, which is basically the inspiration for Twitter. And then you sit in that's what the angry do nowadays. They sit in their dark rooms posting their things behind on the internet, which is basically what most of the internet is at the moment.
I think she also describes him to, who he is from what she says in the start of the movie. girls don't like you. It's not because you're a nerd that girls don't like you. It's because you're an arsehole. It's your personality. It's nothing to do with you being smart and a nerd. You're just horrible. And that is him throughout the entire film.
But then that's also, again, more foreshadowing because, like, the last line by the lawyer played by Rashida Jones right at the end just goes, Mark, you're a nice guy. You're just trying so hard to be an arsehole.
I see. I hated that.
Really?
I hated it. It's bullshit. And it was just a nice line to...
character redemption at the end.
Yeah, it was bullshit character redemption that wasn't actually shown anywhere, barred maybe one line when he was like, he defended you one time in this deposition to his mate. We shouldn't really talk about this now.
The chicken scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like... to validate him and suck up to him, which the movie hasn't done all the way through, and it felt really out of place, really weird, because for me he didn't show anything in the movie to suggest that he's actually a nice person. Every nice thing is followed by something shitty in the same breath.
Throughout the film, everyone he meets he sort of has the same interaction with them, where he speaks to them, sort of takes information from them and then regurgitates it as his own. It happens with the Winklevoss twins, more face value on that one. I think it happens with Eduardo several times. And definitely with Sean Parker, where he gives him the idea of, like, drop the starts taking him to business meetings in LA, investment meetings. It does a great job of making him the bad guy, but you never see him sort of like you never see him do actually anything bad. Like the Winklevoss thing, where they say he takes their idea, he just dresses that up as they had an idea, I had a better one.
Yeah.
But here's a question. Here's a question. Do you think he took their idea?
No.
I mean, yeah, he did. He kind of did, but it wasn't exactly it wasn't a unique idea.
So from the way the film frames it, I think he doesn't take their idea. Their idea is basically, we're going to shop around all the guys who go to Harvard to other girls, essentially, who want to date guys from Harvard. Whereas he's just like, I just want people to be together from Harvard, not necessarily a dating site.
I think he kind of took their idea, especially when it comes to the creation of the relationship status. But it wasn't so like, I don't think their idea was unique enough. As I say in the movie, Friendster and MySpace were already out. Social networks already existed. It wasn't anything new. So it's a bit of a reach. And they were just, we'll touch on those characters later, but they were just freaking prissy rich boys who'd never had anyone tell them no.
Wait, so who do you hate more in this film? Do you hate the Winklevoss twins, or do you hate Zuckerberg?
I like one character in this film.
Oh.
That Eduardo Saverin.
And that's Eduardo. And I mean, like his
what did Dustin Moskovitz ever do?
Who's he? Which one?
He's Mark Zuckerberg's roommate, who's also a programmer.
He was fine. He just was there.
Played by Joseph Mazzello.
It's funny how you love Eduardo Saverin.
I don't love Eduardo. Don't put words in my mouth.
Considering he's the investment person.
Yes, but he's just the most, in this film on an emotional context, he is the most redeemable. In general, they're all probably sucky. Also, as you said, the writer of the book was interviewing Eduardo Saverin, so he's more likely to come out in a better light. Going back to the actual first scene when he's been broken up with, he goes home, gets drunk, goes on to Zuck It, his blog, I think it was called.
I thought it was.
I didn't note down what the name of it is, to be honest.
It was only on the page very briefly, but yeah, it was like Zuck It or something. And he writes, as Chandler mentioned some lines from, he writes a blog post about her, calling her a bitch, talking about her bra size, just real incel behavior that you expect now, a word that wasn't really used at the inception of Facebook, but going online and moaning about a woman who won't give you the time of day because you don't see that you're an arsehole. It is absolutely pathetic behavior.
Yeah, but here's a question.
No, we've never done it.
Not even thought about it.
I'm going to do a deep dive on your guys' Facebook and Twitter.
No.
See, this would have been funny if I actually did that and was like, well, James, in 2008 on Facebook, you said Miss Smith can go fuck herself.
I probably did say that about a teacher when I was 12, yeah.
But you posted on Facebook. You were like, I'm going to tweet about her. But you could argue that from his blog, so he has the blog scene and then just starts blogging everything. And that takes him from very quickly, because it's obviously screenplayable, the blog about his ex-girlfriend, then comparing women to farm animals, then comparing not women to farm animals, but women to other women.
Women to farm animals wasn't his idea, to be fair. He does say that it was his roommate's idea.
But he still chose to do it.
No, he chose to compare women to women, which is still terrible, by the way.
They compare. That's where they create facemash.com, which then takes down the Harvard servers.
I'm not surprised a load of university students are like, face mash, look, we're comparing to people we know.
But here's the funny thing about that scene is like...
But it is horrendous.
Here's the funny thing...
Because it's so American Pie. Like, this whole start makes sense of American Pie as well.
No, but
because this is non-fiction, and the behaviours and what they like and what they're doing and things they say and how they talk about women, etc., is very American Pie, which is obviously from the same kind of time.
It's the weird thing about that scene. It's like juxtaposing Mark creating Face Mash, blogging about all the hacking he's doing to get all the photos, blogging about how he's gonna like do the algorithm, all that type of stuff. But it's set across from like people actually having like parties and stuff at Harvard and their final clubs and all that type of stuff. But then you see images of the guys at these massive wild parties just going on their laptop and going on Face Mash. At no point during a university party did I go, right, I'm going to stop hanging out with my friends and drinking and having a good time. I'm going to go on my laptop.
No, but I will say, when I was when did I get into it? When I was in primary school, so between the ages of like...
You were comparing women on your laptop?
No, 8 and 11. Probably nearer 10 and 11, like RuneScape days. When a friend would come over, we would sit around a desktop PC and play RuneScape or watch YouTube when it first came out and stuff like that. So the idea
I really thought it was going...
So think about it. So for university students around that time and the growth of the internet and no smartphones, because think about it, you will show people things on the internet on your smartphone at a party. People will probably get a PC out and show people things on their desktop. Also, they're at Harvard, it's filled with loads of dorks.
That party they showed at the start did not look like full of dorks.
It was frat bros.
I feel like James is just jealous of everyone he sees in this movie.
Yeah, no, I feel like...
You guys always say the word jealous, and I swear I feel no ounce of jealousy whatsoever. It feels very projecting.
I feel like in 10 years' time, James is going to go, you know what? I was jealous of all the people having a good time and with the money.
Having a good time, they're making Face Mash.
I'd like some more money, but I'm not jealous of frat bros and then Mark Zuckerberg being an arsehole. Like, you always bring out the jealous card.
There you go, Zuckers. Take that.
Take that with your company that's worth $1.73 trillion.
God, this is going to hit him where it hurts.
He's selling ads now, isn't he, the prick?
So yeah, and then we and then at the end of this scene, when it crashes the network, then we start seeing the actual way, the framing of the film, where it's actually, this is now a flashback and we're in the deposition bit. And it's really, I think that really accelerates the film quite a lot.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed during this film, like, it's a 2-hour long film, which is a fairly long film, but I don't feel the length whatsoever. Like, this film, fundamentally, this film is about a lawsuit, but this film makes a lawsuit seem so engrossing. Like, you are glued to the screen. Like, you are so happy to go along for the ride.
Just because of all his little quips that come in occasionally. I often think of the scene where he's like doodling on his notepad, and like he holds up a page and you just see all of his doodles, and the opposing lawyer says, "Do I have your full attention?" He says, "No, you have the minimum amount."
Do you remember the rest of that quote?
No, you have the minimal amount. The rest of my attention is at the headquarters of Facebook, where my colleagues and myself are doing something that no one in here is creatively or technically capable of doing, including yourself or your clients.
Especially your clients.
Especially our client. That seemed like such a cheap shot.
I'm very impressed you actually remembered that. That's really good.
That was really good. Oh yeah, that was good.
But you should have gone and seen.
And we're back in the room.
But it is kind of mad that we see that the creation of Facebook, it stems from being broken up with, an angry blog post, creating Face Smash, rating girls on the internet at a university, then the Winklevoss twins and their friend going to find him because they're like, he can make our idea reality, and then him ignoring them and stringing them along. And let's be real, he's stringing them along because his girlfriend mentioned Row Club, whatever it's called. Row Crew. And as soon as he hears that they're from Row Crew, when they're trying to recruit him, he knows he wants to fuck them over. They have, like, look, they're douchebags, fine, but they actually haven't done anything to him. Just their pure existence, he wants to absolutely fuck them over because his girlfriend said Row Crew when she was dumping him. And it's such a fragile man, the way he's portrayed here.
So just going back to the inaccuracies in this film, I'm just going to point this one out now because we've mentioned it a few times. Erica Albright is a made-up person. Erica Albright does not exist.
I did not know that.
So during the years that this film takes place, Mark Zuckerberg is actually dating the woman he is now married to.
Oh.
So the character of Erica Albright is completely made up.
So all of James's argument that he's heartbroken and is bitter it just fell apart.
In the film portrays him, he just wants to be horrible to the Row Crew guys for no reason. Then is that better or worse?
I think it's portrayed in the film as what happened in real life. They came to him with an idea after he did create Face Mash, and he just went, actually, do you know what? That's a good idea, but I've got a better one, so I'm going to go do it. And maybe he was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to fuck with them because they're rich boys, as you said earlier. Like, as he says in the film later on, like, the reason the Winklevi are suing me is not because I stole their idea or used any of their code. It's because for the first time in their life, things haven't worked out for them like they should have done.
So I saw that from him as he's quite defensive when he does stuff like this throughout the movie. And I found, even though I don't necessarily disagree with him, I think they're absolutely trying to sue him for stealing the idea and the IP. I think both things are true. But he never takes blame for anything throughout the entire runtime, ever. He always projects blame back on the person that's got the complaint.
Yeah.
He does it with Eduardo as most of the film. And in this instance, he does it with the Winklevi.
But I think as the film progresses, then you see more of how he develops Facebook. And so the scene that happens when he actually finally creates Facebook, like he launches it and he starts sending it to people, and he has that sort of moment where he's like praying, where he's like moving back and forth, and you hear the a cappella music in the background.
I thought he was asleep.
I really enjoy that. I really enjoyed that moment, and I'll tell you why. It's because, like, in the film's head, in the scene's head, right? It's a character who's just undertaken a massive project, and he's basically finished it. He's launching his thing that he's worked so hard on. And he's basically praying and having that sense of relief that it's done. It was a little bit akin to how I felt when we finally launched this podcast of like, oh my God, this work is actually taken. It's actually live. People can go see this now. I'm not comparing what we are, silly little podcast that we talk shit for an hour, to the world-changing thing that Facebook is. Whether you like Mark Zuckerberg or not, Facebook changed our generation, and it changed the way we use the internet and social networking. You can't argue with that.
No, you can't. Probably not positively.
Our podcast, on the other hand, has not done that yet.
I think, strangely though, this film didn't make me hate Zuckerberg on my first few watches. Like, even when I watched it now, I was like, "You're annoying," but I don't hate you.
No, I completely agree with you. I think watching this film, you don't come out hating Mark Zuckerberg. Genuinely, I think the only people you come out hating are the Winklevoss.
No, Sean Parker.
I disagree.
Sean Parker.
And Sean Parker, yeah.
I hated Zuckerberg in this. I thought he was a horrible little man, and I hate the Winklevoss. And honestly, I've watched this film before, and honestly, I was I didn't like him then. And this was when it first came out. I watched this movie, and I don't think. And when I remember when I first watched this film, because it's actually a rare occasion where I've watched a film before that we're doing. I found myself not liking him and not liking any characters. And again, I'm watching it again, and I think they all suck. and whether that is the case in real life or not, I mean, Zuckerberg has done a lot to suggest that he is a bad person. The film is in the framed around a deposition where people are actively discrediting people and ultimately being negative about people. So then never can come out positively in that regard.
But we should say as well that even when we had the very small debate of did he steal the idea from the Winklevi, I think they get $65 million out of court settlement. So regardless of what we think, they earned $65 million for maybe having an idea, maybe not having an idea. We don't know how that actually ended up.
And to be fair, they did place 6th in the Olympics.
Yeah, shit.
Which is a huge achievement.
Which
The US,
is...
the US always get gold. What they're doing, they fucked it.
Fucked it. I'd like to see you get 6th in any competition you enter.
Even on this podcast, you're 6th.
It's a bit mean. I'm not proud to be a professional rower. I'm not entering any competitions. That was just hurtful and unnecessary.
So okay. So now we've sort of mentioned the Winklevoss, and we've not mentioned him, but he's wrapped up within the Winklevi. Divi Narendra. How the fuck do you pronounce his name?
No, you got it right. Yeah.
Oh, I did get it right.
Yeah.
Divi Narendra.
He's an angry little man, isn't he? Another one.
I very much enjoyed his lines because he actually says, Divi, what do you want us to do? And he's like, I want to hire the Sopranos to beat the shit out of him.
And having watched The Sopranos, I can tell you that would happen. Gabagool.
The Winklevosses are just portrayed like big babies, though, with no idea, and he is their brain.
Yeah, I do also like their meeting with the president of the university.
Yeah,
and I feel like that scene actually where they Larry Summers, the president of Harvard. I'm not sure if he still is or whatever, but anyway, he basically says,
"Is that actually the president of Harvard?" No.
No, it's not actually him. I meant in real. No. He's an actor playing Larry Summers, who was the president of Harvard.
I was like, that's a huge undertaking.
I meant, is Larry Summers still the president of Harvard? I'm not so sure. But anyway, I really enjoyed this scene because at one point, Larry Summers basically goes on to the level of right and wrong and saying that you having this meeting, an undergrad having a meeting with me is wrong. You shouldn't be here. You have all these other things at your disposal. Go use them if you think it's true. Right. And they go to him. This is a $1 million idea like that they had. And he basically says, I think you're wrong. Like you're that's a bit out of reach. Obviously, we now know that's totally Larry Summers is the guy that was wrong. But I think that's one of the instances in this film where you really see this like old thinking versus new thinking like clash. And I think at some points in this film, you're meant to sort of get the fact that the older generation look down on the newer generation when they have ideas like this, and really you should allow them to go ahead and run away with them.
Is that the only time?
No, it's not the only time. I'm just saying it's one of the times. Because later on, when Sean is out with Mark at a nightclub, he's basically saying the VCs, what they want to happen is, yes, kid, give me your idea, but now go away. The grown-ups are going to handle it. Which is basically the same thing that they're having the meeting with Larry Summers about. It's like, do you really think it's $1 million idea? Like, come on, guys, like you're being idiots about this all. Is what I've never been a CEO of a company. I have no idea. This is why I do a silly little podcast.
You'd be the CEO, we'd be joint CEOs of the Three Takes of Stupidity.
Yes, joint.
I found it.
So yeah,
I've got the IP for the name, haven't I? So actually, yeah. Sorry, boys.
So yeah, I think that's also like one of these interesting themes that comes up in this film of like old generation versus new generation. How like at the sort of not the birth of the internet, because we're like mid 2000s at this point, and it's like internet's still going,
but we're still working out what it can be used for.
Exactly, and I think that's a really good thing in like this early bit of the internet of how like the new generation were the ones really like, okay, we can do a lot here.
From the inception of the idea with the wink of eye, he goes to Eduardo Saverin, who is his best friend. I don't think they're friends now. I would hope they're not friends now, considering what happened to Eduardo in this film. Eduardo is very much sort of portrayed as the victim in this film, but that comes back from the source material is him speaking to an author about this whole story, so he's obviously not going to paint himself in a negative light, although it would be quite difficult to paint him in a negative light in this movie. He basically arrives, gives money to Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg takes his money, turns it into a lot more money, but doesn't really give Eduardo Saverin very much back.
Yeah, so you're completely right. And this is another aspect which really irritated me is I always felt that early on Eduardo was very caring to Mark Zuckerberg in this portrayal. However, it never felt like Mark could care for anything except himself. And I think he was just it felt to me that he was just using Eduardo for his capital so that he could buy the PCs to service to host the website, etc. And, name him CFO, which was totally, what's the word? Just a false title, because he was never actually given the opportunity to act as the CFO in any official capacity, as far as we see in the film. And I just thought he was used.
So I don't think that, well, the way this film portrays it, I don't think Mark just used Eduardo for capital. I think this film does portray their friendship quite well, actually, because I think in certain points, like, you get how much Eduardo cares about Mark, and I think there are points where you see Mark actually care for Eduardo.
Mm.
So, for instance, there's the scene where we learn about the chicken and the animal cruelty. And basically Mark's lawyer goes, you were accused of animal cruelty, what the hell are you doing? And Eduardo looks to Mark and goes, you told them about the chicken? And then his lawyer, before Mark has time to sort of go in, Mark's lawyer says, no, we did it. He told us not to say anything. And I also think you see it the other way when Eduardo is brought into the Winklevoss's deposition, and they hit the Winklevoss lawyer starts asking Eduardo about the Harvard connection. It's like, did you know anything about Harvard connection? Was he working on it at all? And like Andrew Garfield basically goes, no, he wasn't working on it to my knowledge. But then there was a little pause, and then he goes, but Facebook doesn't really have anything to do with Harvard connection. Like, he's basically protecting Mark. He knows that Mark, do you know what I mean? You can still, in those two bits, I think you actually do find their real love for each other and friendship for each other.
But I think there's a stark contrast to them in the film as well, because Eduardo is a social climber from the start. Like, he's getting into the Phoenix Club, which is like the A-list club. I don't know what you call it. Is it a fraternity?
I thought it was fraternity, yeah.
No, so they're slightly different. I tried to look this up. I didn't really understand it myself, what the difference between like fraternities / sororities to like final clubs are. They're just weird social classism things, which is weird because we always think in Britain that we're like obsessed with the class system and like working class, the middle class, the higher class, all that type of stuff. But I think in America it's even worse to an extent.
In their university setting, for sure, it feels like they're parodying English aristocracy.
Yeah, it's mental.
Very bizarre.
But they do go to the Jewish fraternity for the Jewish Caribbean night.
With Niagara Falls on the screen.
With Niagara Falls. And the guy in the yarmulke playing the steel drums, which is hilarious.
But Mark has to leave because he can't handle the Niagara Falls video behind a steel drum player on the TV. I'm like, oh, you freaking wet blanket.
Says James.
Don't get me wrong, there's aspects of their friendship where they show their friends, Mark and Eduardo. You mentioned him being a social climber, Alex. It felt like to me, and they framed it this way as well, Mark never forgave him for any of those instances. He was very jealous of Eduardo getting into the social club, the Phoenix Club. He was jealous of his popularity, and that made him a vindictive man, I think. And that all comes to blows slightly later in the movie with an argument between the two. And yeah, I did believe they were friends, but I also always thought that Mark was jealous of him and wanted to be him, really. I feel like Mark is often feeling an inferiority complex and wants to be the people he's around. But at the same time, he thinks because of his intellect, he is the best person alive. Why does no one like me?
I don't think Mark sees it as he is superior to him. I think he sees him as someone he can always take advantage of, and he can always... Like he can always stand on his shoulders to push himself higher, but at the very same time can always push him away.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
But it's really interesting to see, like, in this like whole, like, going back to like the creation of Facebook, of how, like, at the beginning of it all, and it's obviously the way the film portrays it, of like this battle between Mark and Eduardo, of like Mark wants to keep it cool, wants to keep it free. You know, like, just let the Facebook be what the Facebook is. Whereas Eduardo straight away, right, okay, we've put some money in, let's try and get some money out now. Let's put some ads on. Which is mental to think about at any point that Mark Zuckerberg was like, I don't want any ads on Facebook, when throughout all of the early 2010s, it was just ads, and still is, basically.
Now what it is ads. You can't see anything from people that you follow on there anymore, really. Which
does come back to what I said at the beginning. It's funny to see how different Facebook is now to what it was back then.
And what the idea of it's completely gone.
So I did enjoy this sort of constant battle between the two of them of how they actually want the vision for the company. And then that leads us on to when they like go to New York to set up these meetings with advertisers and VCs. Aaron Sorkin plays a character, like the writer has a cameo.
Is that a Tisk? Is that guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
And then this is the scene that we meet Sean Parker at. This is where we meet Justin Timberlake, who, by the way, as much as you can hate Sean Parker in this film, you cannot hate Justin Timberlake because he plays it so well.
I can.
I love Justin Timberlake in this film.
Every time I watch this film, it just it puts hatred for Justin Timberlake in me for this character. But it doesn't make any sense. I know that Justin Timberlake is just he's constantly Robbie Fowler, and he's doing lines like he's Bart Simpson. Like I know he's just trying to be the best version of his coked up self. But every time I see him play Sean Parker, it just fills me with rage.
I love the bit where you're first introduced to him with Dakota Johnson, and he goes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Did you not notice that was Dakota?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's Dakota Johnson. It's like, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, well, what was your latest preneur?
At first, actually, you're unemployed.
Yeah. And I enjoyed that. It's like, no, you just slept on Sean Parker.
Did you guys ever have any dealings with Napster? Was it too early for us?
I knew of it. I knew it existed, but I don't think I ever went on it.
Yeah.
I think I did, or at least I saw my older brothers and sisters using it.
Bad like LimeWire?
Yeah, LimeWire, yeah.
I think Napster gave you less viruses than LimeWire.
And Pirate Bay and stuff to get music and then Bluetooth it to your friends on your Sony.
Send them to jail. Stop admitting to crimes.
These are crimes when I was 12.
They're still crimes.
Just going back to what I said about, whether you like it or not, Facebook changed the way we use the internet, right? And the way the internet could be and what you do on it. Like, to be fair to Sean Parker, so did Napster. Like, in that scene where they have the dinner at the sushi place, and Eduardo goes, no, you're wrong. The record companies, they won. And Sean's like, in court. In reality, Napster changed the way we listen to music.
Probably wouldn't have Spotify without Napster.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the line I'm trying to draw.
Sean Parker did invest heavily in Spotify at the start and still owns quite a substantial amount of it.
Does he?
He does.
Really?
Does he? I didn't know that. That's actually an interesting fact. But yeah, you can 100% draw the line from Napster to Spotify and Apple Music. Like, there is a clear path there. So he is right. He did. So he is right. He did change the music industry. To be fair to him, as much of a prick he probably is in real life.
Yeah. Before we deep dive onto Sean a bit more, you mentioned Dakota Johnson. Another little surprise actor in this was Brenda Song.
Yeah, from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Yeah,
and of Marriage to Macaulay Culkin fame.
Yeah, and she was also in New Girl, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh my god, Brenda Song. I think she's great. Just
as you brought her up, we did bypass that whole scene of them just being sucked off in the toilets.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get on to.
I really wanted to discuss that.
Eduardo has benefited from, even though he doesn't, like, I think you mentioned that he goes around wanting to sell ads, and ultimately he's just trying to do his job because he's meant to be the businessman of Facebook, and ultimately if they're not going to have ads, ultimately they can't do anything. He can't do anything, and his job title is complete fake. It's just because he gave some money. And it's lip service, really. But the notoriety of Facebook and having both Zuckerberg and his name on the masthead of the website has got them a lot of fans. And Brenda Song and her friend.
Groupies,
as they say.
Or Band-Aids, like the Almost Famous episode.
Yeah. They...
Almost Famous episode.
They have a lovely greeting with two people in a bathroom. Next door to each other.
It's funny. It's very funny.
I don't think I'll ever unhear Jesse Eisenberg's laugh when that girl's undone his trousers.
I did not notice that.
It's harrowing.
I think the one thing that you only really realise watching this film is how young they were. Like, they would have been 18, 19, 20, 21 when they were making this. Like, they're going on about being carded, that they're not going to card us and all this. That means they're not even 21 yet.
Mm.
And it's mental to think that they were talking about these billion-dollar ideas at that age and having it. But I think that also comes down to like the decisions that the real people actually made. Like, do you remember when you were that age, or maybe even a little bit younger, you meet someone who you look up to and you take their every word as gospel, don't you? And that's what Mark does with Sean. Sean says something and Mark just takes it as gospel. Sean's like, we need to do this for VCs, or we need to do this for like revenge on VCs, or all that type of stuff. And like, Mark just goes along for the ride.
So I want to talk about how Mark's treated people and then how he treats Sean, because I don't think he treats many people that well regarding other than what they can get for him, or then based on their how smart they are. So he uses Eduardo for money. He treats his girlfriend in the film, at least not real life, as we found out, pretty terribly. He's very disrespectful to those in other professions, which just is, respectable, like the lawyers in the deposition. He's an arsehole to pretty much everybody. As soon as he hears wind that Sean wants to meet him, he's so excited, and he thinks, this is the guy that I can relate to. He's another young website builder who's changed a industry, and it's the guy he wants to meet the most. And then, unfortunately, when Sean comes into the film, Sean is extremely charming, and Mark eats up his every word, whether they are the same words or different words from what he might have heard from other people. He doesn't respect those other people, really. He ultimately does not respect the opinion of anyone else. He absolutely lives and dies by everything Sean tells him. And us as the viewer, it's very easy to see that Sean is just being a charming guy to string him along and ultimately find a way to make money. Because Sean is broke, yet he's using, probably I imagine, credit cards to buy fancy dinners and impress Mark. He knows this is my next cash cow, and evidently it was, and his charm got him that.
I did really enjoy his line of, we can't. The record companies wanted $35 million in royalties, but it's like we tried to sell the company to get that, and it's like kind of selling the car to pay for the stolen gas. I enjoyed that line. Yeah, that's a very charming line.
Sean is sort of made out to be a huge dick who's just trying to elbow his way into the company. But something that's really interesting that I found when researching this is that Sean Parker he describes himself as a morally reprehensible human being and as a complete work of fiction in the film. And actually says that him and Eduardo in real life, he would consider him a friend.
Really?
Which is really, because it's not it's just not what I would take from this movie at all.
No, definitely not. I didn't read that. That's interesting.
It's comments like that and these films where you don't really know what to believe at that point. So we kind of just have to take it from the narrative perspective of quality film. Depending on what's dramatized. There almost was definitely bad blood between them. But I mean, after you get an undisclosed amount, as Eduardo, and times move on, things change. So who knows? The
huge quality of Sean Parker in the film is that he's a massive narcissist. So maybe in his own head they are great friends, and maybe I haven't seen if Eduardo Saverin has actually responded to those comments, but I imagine he was thinking, no.
It's like the three of us. Like, in my head, I think we're friends, but I don't think we actually are.
No. Me and James do a lot of things without you. We've been on a lot of cruises without you.
We held hands and watched Sonic 3 the other day in the cinema. It was really, really nice.
Sonic wasn't the only thing getting a ring.
Eduardo's the only guy that kind of sees Sean for who he is and what he's doing. And also he completely understands. He sees Mark, and Mark's face lights up when Sean speaks, and Eduardo's onto it straight away. But probably Eduardo also feels threatened because this guy's trying to muscle his way in. Mark thinks he's done all this before, convinces Mark to move to Silicon Valley, and Eduardo's left running around New York with an internship that he quits in a day, trying to find them ad deals. And Sean's just like, nah, Facebook says everything Mark wants to hear. Facebook's cool, don't put ads in it, blah, blah, blah.
You want to catch one marlin, not 14 trout. You don't want to end the party at 11.
And it's like, Eduardo's like, can't hold a £30,000 marlin. That's too big.
It's good that you mentioned the move, though, because when they're in California, in Palo Alto, which I only recently found out is where Stanford is, the scene where Sean just arrives at this house where they've been having a fantastic time, like ziplining from the roof and jumping in the pool and drinking beers and coding and being locked in.
Breaking the chimney.
The fucking second that he arrives, and the way he just starts controlling that whole environment, and Eduardo arriving just drenched from the rain, and then gets told, we're setting up business meetings, we're doing all this while you were meant to be doing it in New York, but you weren't doing a very good job. My hatred for Sean Parker and Justin Timberlake in this moment is through the roof.
I like this whole scene because like Sean Parker arrives out of fucking nowhere. Because that's definitely how it happened in real life.
He
Not
says
a
he
chance.
lives across the street, or he was at that girl's house that he's with, or something. And then Mark tries really hard to be cool by throwing beers at them.
By the way, if you look at that take of that film and slow it down, there's no beer. Like the 2 bottles that smash, there's no beer in there.
They're sugar glass. It's so obvious.
As soon as Sean shows up, again, just that dangling Mark, like he's like a puppet essentially. Like they go to the nightclub. He tells them a story about the guy jumping off the bridge because he sold Victoria's Secret too early. And he's basically saying that there's a story to Mark of like, don't sell it too quick. Like this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. Like, don't sell it too quick, and we can do this together. I'm going to put you on 2 schools, which is bullshit. I don't understand how Sean helps and gets in. No, not in 2 schools, 2 continents. Yeah. I don't understand how Sean gets him on 2 continents. Surely that's just how good Facebook is being by going onto 2 continents. Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how Sean has any.
They were
pull
opening
over.
it up in schools, so it wasn't like public. You had to have it on your school networks and stuff. So it entered Cambridge, Oxford, and
the London School of Economics.
Yeah, LSE. Yeah. No, but it's not. But it's not on the school networks. You need your school, university email.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So you didn't need to like go to Oxford and Cambridge and LSE and go. I want this Facebook. You just needed the. Well, in the UK, I guess it's. What are uni emails? .ac.uk, aren't they? So it's like at oxford.ac or whatever it is.
It is edu though, is it not?
You get edus as well.
Yeah. I was an edu. Yeah,
I think so.
I was.
Mine was ac.uk.
Yeah, you 2 went to second-rate universities.
I went to a wanky arts uni.
Yeah, you did. That makes sense.
I went to the University of Exeter with a lot of people who row. Let's put it that way.
They're all in Holland now because they rowed across the channel.
So no, I don't understand how Sean puts him on 2 continents, but anyway. And again, you mentioned the scene. Eduardo comes because Mark's forgotten to pick him up from the airport, and he's drenched. And that's where that's where there's like, this is where the tension really starts. And like they have the argument. It's like, I don't want him setting business meetings up, and he goes anyway, and then he shuts the account off. Like his $19,000. He's like, fuck it, I'm shutting down the account now.
Mark's obviously taken Eduardo aside and said, "Oh, I need you, Eduardo." Like, take him to another room, and then he closes the accounts because it's Mark's just being like, "I need you," but what does he need? He might need a friend, but he's not treated him like a friend, and he's not treated him like the CFO of his business, and he's allowed Sean Parker to push him out, and he's not protected his friend at all. And Sean's very manipulative. You mentioned the club scene. Sean tells that story about the Victoria's Secret founder because he's dating, or his date at the club is a Victoria's Secret model. And throughout the film, Sean's preyed on Mark's biggest want. Because throughout the movie, Mark is always, the whole thing, he has cared about, what do girls think of me? I want girls to like me like they like Eduardo or they like Sean.
Or the Winklevoss.
So, yeah, like the road crew. Then earlier on, as soon as the girls talked to Eduardo, Christy, played by Brenda Song, and her friend, he's going, when they're trying to have a serious conversation, all he's thinking about and all he's trying to say is, who are the girls? What did they say? Who are the girls? What did they say? Who are the girls? What did they say? When Eduardo's trying to have like a serious conversation about something to do with Facebook.
And it's brought up in this scene where he's like, how's Christy? And Eduardo Saverin goes, Christy's crazy. She's a psychopath. She keeps ringing me and blah, blah, blah. And Mark just goes, it's nice to have a girlfriend, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate the crazy girl trope, but she does set fire to his bed, but just because he went to LA.
And he got her a scarf.
He bought her a scarf, yeah.
That is objectively mental.
Yeah, it is.
Do we know if that's true?
I don't know.
It's a big film cliche, as in the crazy girl trope like that, but maybe it was true. She said
It doesn't seem like it adds anything for it not to be true.
I very much enjoyed the bit in this scene where it's like, how come you not change your Facebook status to in a relationship? It's like, I don't know how.
I think it was a good way to put that, because that was like a genuine thing people would be like.
Yeah.
Like, why are you this? And then you'd get the creepy kids that would always put like, who they're not dating someone at the school. You never see who they're dating, but they'd always put, it's complicated. And you'd be like, what? It's not. And you'd be like, no, just, it was always the kid that you're like, no, you ain't, there's no one. Sorry, mate.
Welcome to the life of James Robbins.
No.
Yours is still, it's complicated
true.
now, isn't it?
I'm just complicated.
So this really ramps us up to the end of the film. So, like, even though Eduardo's frozen their account and they have no money, some other investor has come in, someone called Peter Thiel, who owns like a $2 billion hedge fund, they say in the film, has come in and wants to invest. Was it 50 grand or 500 grand? I think it was 500 grand.
500 grand, because he uses the opportunity to, Sean uses the opportunity to belittle Eduardo even more. Like, you were talking to a builder's shop, and look at us. I've gone and got us this 500 grand hedge fund investment that you don't even know who they are.
Yeah. And, you know, and then he calls Eduardo back going, I need my CFO. They want to reincorporate the business. And this is where it's like, really just ramps up to the end. And it's like, and as I said before, like, at this point, we're like an hour and 40 into the film or something to that effect. It doesn't feel like an hour and 40. Like, you're just like, oh my God, this film, like, it feels like it feels like you've only been sat in your chair for like 20 minutes, half an hour at this point, because the film is so, like, throughout the film, the pacing is so well done. It's so fast. And that is a testament to the directing and the writing. Like, David Fincher, as director, is brilliant in this film. And Aaron Sorkin, his screenplay is incredible. Like, again, it's a film about lawsuit, about a social network site. And it's so good. It's so well paced. It's so interesting.
I think the deposition really lends itself to that pacing, because it allows them to go to the deposition and then quickly bounce to another scene. And because there's two depositions, they're not just following one storyline. They're following... There is... Ultimately, the Winklevosses get left behind a little bit in the narrative of this story, for the most part, especially about halfway through. But the Eduardo deposition is the main one, but it allows them to jump to different scenes because they're referring to each other. Yeah. And I think that keeps it quite snappy, and it really does help with the pace of it, and it keeps it engaging.
And I think ultimately that's why this film did win Best Oscar for editing.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, like the snappiness you talk of is all down to how they've edited and done this film. It's so good.
And then when you get into that final sort of run of scenes where it's taking you essentially through Eduardo's downfall, he's sort of been on a constant downhill run ever since he gave Mark the money at the start. But this is like the official downhill run of where this is essentially where Eduardo starts his legal journey from I've started this company to fuck.
Yes, he's just getting manipulated constantly, isn't he? Because he goes with the Peter Thiel lawyers who are investing, and they're like, oh, your stock's going to go up from 30%, your ownership's going to go up from 30% to 35%, you'll have 1 million such and such shares. But what he doesn't read is the fine print that suggests that his shares are vulnerable and can be diluted in the event of extra investment. And just on Peter Thiel, if we want to talk about more horrible billionaires, he was a fellow founder of Elon Musk's PayPal.
Fair enough. Just on that thing of that whole scene of like your actual ownership is going to go up, right? I've watched this film many times. I still don't understand why his shares would go up, considering someone else is buying into the company. That's why I didn't study economics or business. I studied maths at uni.
He does tell you why. And they're like, I love business students, but they're buttering him up just to fuck him over.
Yeah,
100%. I still don't understand it. I have no concern to look into why. Maybe when we start making any money, we will have to go through this process. But I'm going to say now, I will try not to fuck either of you over.
That's why
I will fuck you off.
That's why I already own the trademark, so you guys can't do that.
So as Alex said, this is the beginning of Alex's downfall, of Eduardo's downfall.
I knew it.
Downfall.
I don't think we've touched on this yet, really, but Andrew Garfield's acting in this entire film is incredible.
Oh, you don't have to say that. He's just impeccable in anything. Like, I can't blame Mark Zuckerberg for being jealous of Andrew Garfield. That's completely understandable.
Like, Andrew Garfield is so good in this film. I think it culminates in the scene where he's just been told that his shares have been diluted down to 0.03%. This is basically the climax of the movie. The final confrontation between Eduardo and Mark. And the whole scene, picking up the laptop, throwing it to the floor, breaking it. The whole thing of, you better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything. The acting in it is so good. Not just in this one scene, but through the whole film. And we've touched on Justin Timberlake. We've touched on how good Jesse Eisenberg is. Like, genuinely, I think one of the best acted films I've probably ever watched.
When you talked about the pacing of the film, from that scene where he's speaking to the lawyers and they explain to him that his share is going to go from 30 to 35%, you get it straight. It cuts straight to the deposition where the lawyer's reading out what was their share diluted down to, what was this share, and then it's back into him arriving at the office for the millionth?
Yeah, million member party.
Yeah, the millionth member, where he then gets it's almost like the official paperwork of, remember that thing you signed?
This is when I was like, Mark's even more of a scumbag, because he's like, you were the business guy and you made a bad business decision. So that's meant to be your friend that you've used the entire time, and that you have made him basically his shares worth 0.03%, basically nothing. You've taken him you've strung him along this entire time. You made him look good by giving him 34% of the company, and then you've just stripped it away from him. And then you've just got little Justin Timberlake in the background being like, being a little wanker over his shoulder. This scene irritated me so freaking much. Everyone in this scene, other than Baby Garfield, is so awful.
Where he goes to give him his $19,000 back, and
he makes him flinch.
He makes him flinch, and then says, "I like standing next to you. I feel so tall.
Tough.
I feel so tough." And that's exactly why I don't think they're still friends.
The other line I really enjoyed in the speech is, sorry, my Prada's at the cleaners along with my fuck you flip-flops.
Yeah, I like that.
Really enjoy it. Really enjoyed the way this whole bit is done. It's such good acting.
The smarminess from Sean is so well done by Justin Timberlake, to be fair. It's so irritating. He's like, security are on their way.
Yeah.
They're like, here's your money back.
We will get your signature.
We will get your signature. He's very soft-spoken and very, like, just up himself. And then the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is just once again sat there hiding beside someone else, not taking any accountability for the negative things he's done, and fucking over someone that's meant to be his buddy. I think it's sickening. I was really angry, if you can't tell.
When that whole scene is over, Sean Parker just goes over to Mark and goes, "Are you okay? Right then, let's check on that millionth member. Get it up on the screen.
Party.
Yeah, we did it. Let's go get some Coke."
And it's right. So yeah, they have the millionth member party, and yeah, Sean goes and does coke with underage people, which is terrible. But this is actually because in real life, what happened is, so Sean at this point is the president of Facebook, president of whatever the board, I guess. And then because of this party, he has to resign from being president of Facebook. Still owns like 6 or 7% of the company, but can't be president anymore, and just is like talks to Mark every so often. But it's really weird to see, like, basically within one night, Mark loses the two people he sort of counted on. He's lost Eduardo because he himself has fucked him over, and he's now lost Sean because Sean's gone and done coke with 18-year-olds.
And it's allowed Mark to moan about, like, he was very big on the publicity. It was alluded to that he might have planted the story in the paper about the chicken, and to get Eduardo to look bad because he's jealous of Eduardo and him getting in the Phoenix Club. And here, same kind of thread following on from that was him just talk. He didn't care about Sean doing a terrible thing and doing cocaine with underage interns.
He cares about the story.
He didn't give a fuck about that. He cared about the story. He cared about the optics of Facebook and how it will look in the news and how it will look in the press and how it could tear it down. Again, he's just a selfish narcissist who doesn't actually have any empathy for anyone else around him.
So it's like in that final scene when Rashida Jones's character basically goes, "How come you weren't at that sorority party?" And it's like, now I'm going to make everyone think that you phoned the police to do Sean in, essentially.
Yeah. But then he's like, what? How can you do that?
Sean has a very similar reaction when he's in the police station to Mark, because I think he says, do you think Eduardo could have had something to do with this? And it's so similar. It's so similar to Mark saying,
no, it's similar to Eduardo. No, it's similar to Eduardo saying it was the Winklevosses about the chicken.
Yes.
But it is true, because Sean is so paranoid, and at one point so was Eduardo.
So I was going to say, Eduardo didn't really have a part of his character wasn't really paranoia, but what a big part of Sean's character throughout the entire thing was paranoia, like the FBI are onto him, and like
the government are getting him escorts
to seduce him, and he's fully like deep state locked in before I think that was even a big thing on the internet. He's like, oh my God, did Eduardo do this? And I said, he's like, did he send the coke hit? It's like, no, bro, you took the freaking coke and you're having a house party in Los Angeles, in Silicon Valley, and you're all going to be billionaires. What are you talking about? It's just deluded. And I think he was a deluded character.
I do like the way the film ends, I'll be honest. So Mark sat at his computer adding his fictional girlfriend on Facebook to the song. It's a really interesting way, because it sort of does go back that this film is like sort of saying that Mark's only done this for love, essentially. Not love in the sense of like he loves Erica, more like, you know, wanting to find love, let's say.
No, I don't think it's love at all. He wanted attention from girls through it. It was never about love. Every other instance in the movie we've seen is he's wanted approval and to be basically worshipped by women. He wanted to be held in such high regard by Erica at the start of the film, when he's like, I could take you to meet the people you'd never get to meet because you're a Boston University, and that's your. And then all he wants is the attention from Christy and the friend. He's like, oh, what did they say? What did they say? What did they say? He wants the attention from women. And then that scene for me is nothing about love. It's about we didn't touch on the scene where he sees her in a bar and wants to apologize. All he wants is the opportunity to apologise, because it may be the one thing he sees where he's done wrong, and he wants to be let off from that, basically.
I can see what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with the point where it's like he wants worship from the girls.
I think he wants to be worshipped by everyone for his intellect. I think that's how he felt. He wants to be held in high regard. Worship, I'm not talking like, oh, bow down at me. I'm talking worship in the sense of people revering him and holding him high regard for fair. I'm just using worship in that word.
I don't think worship is the right word. I think being respect. No, I think it's respect.
Respect's a good word.
I think it's more respect.
I think
because,
he wants
as you
more
say,
than respect.
Wait, hang on. Because as you say,
he wants to be lauded.
No, I don't think it's be lauded. I think it is more respect and wanting to be held in high regard and being admired for how smart he is. I don't think worship is the right word.
Worship's probably not the right word, but at the end of
the day, again, when we were that age, did we not want attention from the right people? And coming back to our actual theme of the whole this trilogy of episodes, like he wanted to make it big so he could get respect and recognition, so he can, you know, get attention from girls, get into the final club, and do something that is worthy of both those things.
All I'm going to say is I think it's more than respect. The film has given us umpteen examples of how he wants to be lauded. He's jealous of the attention the Winklevosses get from them being 6'5" ripped rowers and going to go to the Olympics. He's jealous of attention that Eduardo's getting, and he loves how charming and the attention, and how ultimately Sean is lauded by women, and how he sucks people into meetings, even just how when they first meet him and they're sat at the table and they're all like, not all of them, but Christy and Mark specifically are besotted by him. They are lauding him. And I do think it's more than respect, because people want respect and people can command respect in different ways. But I do feel like this is a bit more superficial. He wants to be lauded. Worship, we can hang on words if you want to, but
yeah, I don't ever get the feeling in this that he wants to be respected. He just wants to be known. He just wants to make it big. He doesn't care how he gets there.
And he wants to make it big for very superficial reasons. Ultimately, revenge and attention.
Now it's time for the bit that everyone loves. 3 takes. I think we'll start with eeny, meeny, miny, mo. James it is.
That's a great idea. We could have like a little spinny wheel for our video content, even though we pick every time. Anyway. So I'm going to read you an excerpt I did on Mark Zuckerberg, and then I'll maybe talk about what I thought about the film. I wrote down...
Here comes the politics.
No, I'm going to do a little bit of his controversies, but not many. I wrote down, Zuckerberg is a weak, pathetic and vengeful little man who can't get over his inferiority complex and thinking because of his intellect he's better than everyone else. He's easily led by people like Sean who charm him because ultimately it's who he wishes he could be and never will be. I think it's very clear in the modern press, Zuckerberg has had a troubled, controversial time of it. I mean, Facebook's been alleged to have allowed Russian interference into elections in the West. There's the recent cozying up to Trump and basically rolling back and allowing misinformation on Facebook to spread more rubbish that has ultimately been a huge part of, and the website has ultimately led to radicalization of people. And I think rightly so in this, Zuckerberg is portrayed as quite a terrible person. I honestly despised him in this movie. And this is from someone who, when ultimately I was a young lad, like used Facebook, enjoyed Facebook, had fun. But the website is not that anymore. It's not what this film portrays it to be at all. It's now just an ad-filled place of vitriol and for people to spout horrendous views. And also not able to find anything from your friends ever because it's just ad, video, trying to be TikTok or whatever. I thought Sean was a paranoid character and charming. I thought the twins were just stuck-up rich babies, essentially. And then Edo is the likeable one, who's we've talked about his frame likeable. I think the dynamic works really well. I do think maybe it does lean into Edo being seemingly very, redeemable. Maybe I don't know what the truth is, and now knowing what the boys told me, and which I didn't know before, that it was a lot of this. The book that this was based on was written from interviews with Edo, so it does make me think, what can I believe? But beyond the people that it's talking about, you can make your own opinion up on them. The movie is excellent. Like, it is genuinely very, very good, and it will make you feel things, and it made me feel really angry throughout. Like, I also enjoyed parts of it and found some of it fun, but it is an excellent film. I love the framing around the deposition and how it allows it to jump around. Chandler is absolutely right. It really, really keeps the pacing quick and snappy and keeps you engaged. And in terms of our theme, making it big, well, I don't think you can make it much bigger than ultimately becoming one of the richest people alive.
Nice. My overall take on the film, like, I'm not going to touch on like the actual real people involved. I'm just going to talk about the film. I think the film is excellent. I think I genuinely think, objectively speaking, it is the best film that we've done so far.
That's bold.
I think it's like the other. I'm not going to say the other films, but I think objectively, it's the best film. It might not be my favorite that we've done, but it's objectively the best. Like, as I've said, the writing is incredible. The directing is incredible. The acting is incredible. The editing is incredible. The music choices are great as well. The whole film keeps you so engrossed all the way throughout that you feel like you just want to keep knowing what's happened. Like, the really interesting thing, again, I've seen this film quite a lot, but I watched it with my partner who's not seen it before. And I think it's actually the way the story is eked out to you, even as we're talking around the depositions. You know that they're suing each other, but it's only in the last scene do you actually know why. That I think because the three of us have all seen this before, that you forget that. And it's actually incredible to realise that you don't know why this is all going on until the very last scene. And I think even in that just makes this, I think that view, seeing her go through it with me when we were watching it, reminded me of what I would have thought when I first actually watched the film, which is incredible. And yeah, I think it's one of the best films. I think it's the best film that we've done. I will rewatch this again. I always recommend this film. Like, even if, like with most biopics, even if the story isn't all that true, like, you can remove, like, there are two separate things, the truth and the film, and you can separate those things. And I think for this, like you can obviously, like, once you know that Eric Albright isn't a real person, some of the motives do fall down, and you're like, okay, why did he really start Facebook, and what was that face mash all really about? Because that was real. Face mash was real. So why did he start it if it wasn't being angry at another woman? Yeah, but I don't care. Like, I don't care what the truth is in this film. As I said at the start, Facebook is so different to what it was back then. Like, we're 20 years on essentially from when Facebook started, and it's such a different thing that I can just take the story in the film as it is and just enjoy it so much.
The man of the hour.
This film has won 178 awards, including 3 Oscars. So I think the quality is undisputed. I would agree that it's probably the best film we've done. I think regardless of like the inaccuracies, like the adding in of all the partying, because I think it's Eduardo Saverin does say we weren't doing a lot of partying. There wasn't a lot of drinking and messing around. It was just a couple of guys would just go into their room every night and would just write code. But he agrees that doesn't make for a very good film. You don't win 178 awards with 3 guys sat at a computer coding. But regardless of that, it's a film at the end of the day. There has to be a dramatization of certain events. It does show a really good job of showing Mark's personality, his ruthlessness when dealing with people like Eduardo, his blind spot in terms of Sean, and his just desire to just make it big, to achieve the dream, to be that tech bro, to quote James Robbins, that he really, really wants to be.
I think I just want to say like that I did this going down as both your top films we've done is surprised me.
Right then, it's time to unlock in and log off. Next week we'll have the final part of the Making It Big trilogy. Chandler's choice is Moneyball. If you've got any suggestions for films we can cover, send them to us via our Hop page. The link is in the episode notes. It's goodbye from James.
See ya.
It's goodbye from Chandler.
Poke.
It's goodbye from me. And one final note, everyone. Remember to poke those you love. Goodbye.
Don't forget to update your status.
Bye.
Don't forget to rate, review, and share the podcast. It really helps us grow. Follow us on all our socials, plus our individual Letterboxd accounts. The links can be found in the description at www.hopwith2ps.bio/3takes or search for 3 Takes of Stupidity on most platforms. Please send us your film and series suggestions on our Hop page or to 3takesofstupidity@gmail.com. Thank you and hope to see you soon.